Welcome to video 2 of session 3 of Mid-Program Workshop. So you have your community action project idea. How do you take an idea and make it come alive? We'll be going through some of these steps in this video. Make sure you have your community action project brainstorming worksheet from session 2 readily available. The project that you're planning should be realistic for you to achieve within the time you have, with the resources you have, including team members, financial resources, equipment, space, and of course, balancing your regular work with this project. We encourage this project to be part of your regular work or supplemental so that when you return back home, you can involve others on your team and integrate it into a sustainable model. Some of you may have some funding for your projects, but as we've discussed, it's likely that most of you will be implementing your project with very low resources and should be prepared to implement it at little or no cost, which is why it's really important to look at who is in your network to support you and help you do so. But first, it's important to consider these factors before you plan your project. Consider what skills exist within your community. What is the potential for sustainability after the 6 months? What potential partnerships can you create or continue? Are there any potential risks? What resources are needed and where might they be found? Are there existing projects in the community or in your home organization, and how can you incorporate or complement those projects? And then what's the feasibility of completing your project within the given timeline and with potentially limited resources? When thinking of potential partners, don't forget about other CSP leaders and alumni, your host organization, and other organizations in your network. Before you start planning all of the stages of your project, it's really important to recognize something we all know. We can do nothing alone. Change is hard, and it takes a lot of people working very hard and strategically to make change happen. This is why creating and contributing to your virtuous circle is so important. We discussed this thoroughly in orientation, as you might remember. So recollect that being part of a virtuous circle is really essential. Do you know right now who's in your virtuous circle or network? Before moving ahead in planning your project, you'll need to understand who's in your network. Who can you lean on for support, encouragement, or resources? Who's in your support network? Who can help you make this project possible? And what already exists within your community? To plan for success in your community action project, you will need to have support. You want to engage your stakeholders. So let's look at who's actually in that circle. Who are your stakeholders? Who is in your network? We'll think through this and do so through a network mapping activity. So now that you have your idea, let's get started by looking at who is in this network mapping. Network mapping is understanding who is in your existing virtuous circle and then how can you strengthen and continue to build the network. The first step to building and strengthening your network and supporters is to simply identify who is already in your network and what are your network gaps. Who's currently not in your network, who you want to bring in. The second step is then learning the strategies to bring in these new stakeholders and to build committed support from both new and old people in your network. This is again what you'll be learning in the next course over the next few months. In this session, we'll focus on identifying that network. Right now, make sure that you have your network mapping worksheet either open in a Word document on your computer or preferably printed in front of you. You'll need this worksheet for this session. Some of you might have heard of network mapping as an activity or tool using technology to pull in data electronically on a visually complex map. Some of you might have completed a network map and analysis in this way. If so, think of that form of networking as much more advanced as what we'll do in this session. For the sake of our time together, we'll start towards the beginning of network mapping to identify our network and its gaps. So first, we'll look at the categories of network that you will place the people into who already exist within your network. Someone who's in your network must be an individual that you already have direct contact with and would feel comfortable reaching out to for support. Right now, do not include anyone that you want to bring into your network. This activity, really brainstorm who's already in your network right now, either within the United States or back at home. On your worksheet, you'll see 4 categories of contacts in network mapping. The first are professional contacts within your organization. This quadrant lists any individuals who you have a relationship with professionally at your home or host organization. Remember, these are people already within your network who you can easily rely on and communicate with. The next quadrant are your professional contacts outside of your organization. This is anyone outside of your home or host organization who is a professional contact who you already have a trusting relationship with. This could be at a partner organization, a previous employer, or a volunteer organization you have been involved with. The next quadrant are life or social contacts. This is anyone who's important in your life but not a professional contact. These are people who you have a trusting relationship who you can depend on for support and advice, such as your closest friends, your close relationship with your significant other, religious institution contacts, or so on. And the final quadrant are beneficiaries, stakeholders, or others. Is there anyone else in your network who did not fit into any of the other 3 categories? For example, if you're a teacher, maybe your students might be part of this category. Or if you run a mentoring workshop, maybe the volunteers are part of this category. You can be creative with this 4th quadrant. So right now, practice filling in the network mapping worksheet with at least 5 contacts in each quadrant. Pause the video right now and fill in your worksheet on page 1 for the next about 10 minutes or so. Welcome back. After you've completed the quadrants of your network, let's see what you've discovered. Take a minute and notice which quadrants were easier to fill in and which were harder, which you have more contacts in and which you have less. Reflect on this for just a moment. Now that you've identified who's in your broad network, let's focus on developing your core network. Let's look at sheet 2 of the worksheet. This is where you will focus on your community action project and what support you need specifically for this project from your network in order to make it successful to design and implement your project. Right now, complete the first section with your project goal and approach. After you completed that section with your project goal and approach, we'll think about who your project stakeholders are within your network. A stakeholder is really anyone with a vested interest in your project. Who are the people you bring together when you start to develop and implement a new project? Think of this for your community action project. Who do you need in each of your network categories to move this project towards success? This should be a group of about 10 to 15 key contacts in your core network. Think about who do you need to help plan, develop, and implement the actual work? Who could help connect you to the right people? Who can provide you feedback, can mentor you, and be a resource and sounding board? Who will you look at to access your ideas and think through your plans and provide an honest review? Who has expertise and knowledge necessary for this success? Who do you need to keep your morale high during difficult times? Who encourages or inspires you or lifts you up when you're down? And who do you need to buy in from to get this done? Is there anyone who can potentially slow down your work or cause it to not succeed? Right now, complete page 2 of the worksheet. Take about 10 minutes to pause the video and list your core network in the categories on the screen on page 2 of your worksheet. Now that you've completed page 2 of the network mapping worksheet and identified your core network, consider where are the gaps. Think about who else you need in the core network to ensure project success. Write those names if there are any specific people in mind on your worksheet. Wherever you see the gaps, this is where you want to focus on building out your network. For your existing core network, you'll want to focus on nurturing these relationships. We'll discuss much more about relationship and partnership building in the next CLI course, Strategic Partnership Building, and more about nurturing relationships in the Motivational Leadership course. For now, knowing who's in your network and who can specifically support your community action project is a key component to moving forward. This session is just touching the surface of network mapping and stakeholder engagement. We hope you found this useful. For those of you with more advanced network mapping skills, we hope you share these skills with your peers and help them through this process. It's really important to stop and think about what support we need to make your project a success. Next, post in the discussion forum and chat with your CSP family about relationships and networking building. Then, move on to video 3 of this session, where you'll learn much more about your CLI Community Action Project profile and next steps forward for your project. Thank you.